everyone, welcome to another episode in the beginners class. My name is Billikis and I will be teaching you how to draft a basic bodice, that is your own basic bodice, since you know how to take your accurate body measurement now. Then to make it easier and to broaden your experience, I will be drafting two basic bodice patterns, one for an extra small size or a small size, and then for a plus size which is extra large. So this is to broaden your knowledge because there are some differences you might see there which I would like to explain in detail. So that was why I made it like that. Then I have some measurement here for both basic bodies I'll be drafting, and then the neckline, how to determine the neck width and all that I'm going to explain in detail. So on my table now I have my pattern paper. You can see you can use your cardboard paper too. So the length of my pattern paper is 36 inches by 24.5. So it is wide enough to accommodate your basic bodice pattern, either for a plus size or an extra small size. So the first thing now is I want us to go through the measurements before we start drafting. Here I have the two measurements. This is for the extra small or small size, while this is for extra large, which is my own measurement. Now, these are the measurements you have to take for yourself, which I've explained in how to take your measurement. So this now for the extra small, the bust circumference is 33, the waist circumference is 27, the hip circumference is 34. Going out to the back width, has is 13, the chest width is 12, our shoulder measurement is 14, then our bust span is 7. I forgot to write that. 7 inches. Then going to our arm side depth, which is also half of the armhole, I will teach you how to get that on your pattern. Then our bust level or bust point measurement is 9 inches. Our back waist is 13 inches. Our front waist is 14 inches. Here, our waist to hip is 8 inches. Going over to my own measurement now. My bust circumference is 42. My waist circumference is 38, while my hip circumference is 45. My back width measurement is 16 compared to hers, which is 13. My chest width is 15. My shoulder measurement is 18. My bust span is 9 inches. My arm side depth will also be determined on my pattern. So the bust point or bust level now for me is 11 inches. My back waist 16. My front waist 18. While my waist to my hip is 8 inches. Then another thing before we quickly start drafting is this: you need your neck width measurements. I've also made this, simplify it so that you don't need to do any calculations. So now your neck width is how wide your neck should be. For an extra small person like the first one I showed you will be 2.5 inches. That is for somebody that has a bust of 32 inches to 33 inches. So if your bust is between 34 and 35, you're a small size, you will use 2 3/4. Then for a medium size, which is 36 to 37, we used also 3/4. For a large size, which is bust 38 to 40, we use 3 inches. For an extra large person like me, 41 to 43, we use 3 1/8 of an inch. While for extra large, 43 and above, we use 3 1/4. So now let's go to our paper to start drafting. I'm ready to start drafting now. So what I'm going to make use of is this. You need the length of the bodice you want to draft and then the width. So now for the width, let's talk about the width. First, I'm just going to divide my paper into 2 to make it easier. Here I have 24.5, so let me just divide it into 2 by using 12 here. Though I'll have extra half over there, no problem. So 12. I'll come up here. Measure 12. You can use your L square. So you don't have one. And I'm just going to divide that into 2. So this is what I have. The next thing now, you need the hip measurement. Since I'm drafting for the extra small, our hip circumference is 34. So this now I'm going to divide it by 4. When I divide 34 by 4, 8.5. So 34 divided by 4 is going to give me 8.5. To this measurement, you can add his to it. Between quarter of an inch to half an inch is fine. So to that 8.5, I'm just going to add quarter inch to it to make it 8.75. So what you now have to do is to measure 8.75 from the center line, mark it downwards, 8.75, come in here, 8.75. Then I will make a straight line. Also do the same thing to this side. I now have 8.25 on both sides. 8.25, 8.25. That is the measurement of our hip. For instance, if your bust is the largest circumference of your measurement, you'll be using your bust. But on the average, your hip is the largest circumference you will have. But sometimes we have a situation whereby the bust will be the largest part, so you will use the largest circumference on your body. So after doing this, now we need to determine the length. So how do you determine the length we are going to use? That is your back waist measurement plus your waist to hip measurement. That will be the length of the top. Her back waist measurement is 13, while her waist to hip is 8 inches. So 13 plus 8 inches will give me 21 inches. Then I will advise you to add about 1 inch to that for your blouse length. So instead of 21 now, I'll be marking up 22. From the bottom of my paper, straight up. I'll come here to measure the same thing, 22. So that means I need to extend this upward. So I'm just going to close that up. So for the front, this will be the center back. Why this will be the center front. So for this center front, I'm going to leave it open because of our neck line. The next thing now is to insert our vertical measurement. Over to the vertical measurement, the first thing we are going to insert is the back waist measurement. So for her, back waist measurement is 13 inches. So from the nape of the neck here downward, so we are going to mark 13 inches, which is here. Then the hip measurement. Remember when we added this 13 inches to the 8 inches, we had 21. So we are going to mark the 21 inches down here. And this extra 1 inch will be for the blouse length. So these two lines now is going to be made into a straight line till the center front. Right now we have our back waist measurement, the hip, and then the length of the blouse. The next thing now is to determine the ham side depth or half of the armhole measurement. So what you are simply going to do is to divide the back waist measurement into 2. So for her it is 13. 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. Then just have either quarter of an inch or half inch to that. So I'm going to add half an inch to that measurement to give me 7 inches. Then I'm just going to mark 7 inches from the nape of the neck straight to the center front. Next thing now we have to do is to insert the back width measurement before the neckline. Her back width measurement is 13 inches, which will be divided into 2. So that is 13 divided by 2, which will give me 7 inches. Sorry, that will be 6.5 inches. 13 inches divided by 2 will be 6.5 inches. So you could add ease to this. So to make it like 6.75, but I'm just going to make use of the exact measurement. But it is advisable for you to add ease to your pattern. 6.5, coming to the nape, 6.5 inches. So this will be a guideline to make the armhole curve. The next thing now is to go to the neck width. Remember from the measurement I gave you the other time, you just have to check which sizes you fall into to determine the neck width. For her, she's bust 33, so that will be 2.5 inches for her neck width. All I have to do is to measure from the center back 2.5 inches, which is here. Then from that point I'll have to go up by 3/4 inch. That's for small to medium. But for large to extra large, you go up by 1 inch. Even for medium at times, it could go up by 1 inch. But for her, it's going to be 3/4. So now we have the neckline. The next thing is to determine the shoulder slope. All you have to do is, still on the nape line, just go down by half an inch, that's for the back, half an inch, and then make a straight line there, just little. This will be a guideline for us. After doing that, you now need the shoulder measurement. Our shoulder measurement is 14 inches. So remember, 2.5 has been taken for the neckline. So you just have to continue from that 2.5, placing the 2.5 now on the neckline. Can you see that? So half of the shoulder measurement, which will now be 7, because 14 inches divided by 2 is 7 inches. So from this point now, you now have to rotate your measuring tape till you have 7 inches on this very line. So make sure it is accurate. So my 7 inches now is here. So that is her shoulder measurement. I will now have to connect in a straight line. So that's the shoulder slope. The next thing now is to determine the armhole curve. The first thing is to insert your bust measurement. For her, our bust measurement is 33 inches. That is the bust circumference. So I'm going to divide that by 4. All you can do on your measuring tape, this is 33 divided by 2, that's 16.5. Fold it again. So what do I have here? I have 8.25. So you could add ease to it to make it 8.5, or better still, you could just make use of that 8.25. So it depends on your preference, but I will advise you always add ease to your outfit. So that is our bust measurements. Good. Another essential thing you should do is to go up by 2 inches from the armhole line. So to make it easier, this is the armhole line. Let me put A. This is the waist, and this is the hip. Then this is the hem. Let me just put the length of blouse. So from the armhole on arm side depth, just come up by 2 inches. That's like a standard. Then from the half an inch line till the 2 inches point, just get the midpoint. So this is 4.5. Half of that will be 2.25. So this will be your first notch, while this will be your second notch. So you can use your pattern notcher to make a hole there. So take your armhole curve, connect from this point to the first notch. Can you see that? Taking your armhole curve here now and connect. So you just move about 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch away from the second notch. And connect it up. So our armhole is formed. Lastly, here now I forgot to mark the neck region. For you to mark the neck region, you should start about 1/2 or 3/4 inch inward. That's somewhere around here. So then you now take your armhole curve to rotate it till you get a curve from the nape to this point. Can you see that? So we are done with this. The next stage now is to insert our bust span. From our measurement, our bust span measurement is 7 inches. So we need half of that. When I divide it into 2, that will give me 3.5. So first on the arm side depth, I'm going to insert 3.5 inches. Then on the hip, 3.5. The next thing is to insert the dart. By standard, 1/2 inch dart should be added to the waist region. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. That will be connected to these 2 points. So from here now, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And from this very place, I'm going to go up by 1.5. So that is formed. So right now we've inserted the bust measurements. We are left with the waist and the hip. But there's one thing you need to know, because looking at your body shape from the back, you will notice it goes in a little bit towards the waist area. So what we are going to do now is on the waist area, just go in by 1/4 of an inch for a small size to a medium size. But for a large size to an extra large, you go in by 1/2 an inch. So that's fine. It will give you that perfect shaping. So that's 1/4 of an inch for her. So now to determine where you need to connect it to, all you have to do is to divide your back waist measurement by 3. So when I divide 13 by 3, I should have approximately 4.3, which is, let's say, 4 1/4. 4 1/4 is actually more than 4 1/4, but 4 1/4 is fine. Then connect it straight to that point. Now we can insert the waist measurement. Our waist measurement is 27, so we need to divide that by 4. Here I have 6 3/4 for 1/4 of the waist measurement. Then remember, we have taken 1 inch dart here. So this 1 inch has to be added to the waist measurement, or else it will be shorter than your desired measurement. So that's 6 3/4 now, plus extra 1 inch is going to give me 7 3/4. And that measurement will be taken after this 1/4 inch shaping we have added at the back. So 7 3/4 should be here. So that is our waist measurement. Then going over to the hip, our hip measurement was what we used to determine the box for the center back and the center front, which is 8 1/2. It is actually 8 1/4 because our waist circumference is 34 inches, which is 8 1/2 when you divide that by 4. But I added extra 1/4 inch ease just to make it a bit free. So that is why I have this 8 3/4 on the hip area. So I'll just maintain that, except I don't want any ease. I can now reduce it to 8 1/2, but I'll just maintain the ease. Now we can connect it up. My hip curve now, I'm just going to connect the hip. So by standard, just come up about 1 inch from the hip line to connect it straight down. Right now, our back basic bodice is ready. So all we have to do now is to go to the center front, that is the front basic bodice. Close up the center front line now, as we did for the back. So all I have to do is this. Remember, from the nape of the back downward, we have 22 inches. So I'm going to add this 3/4 into it, which we went up by to determine the shoulder slope and the neckline. So that's going to give me 22 3/4. So I'm going to come to this middle line, measure 22 3/4 upward. And on this very line, 22 3/4. When drafting, make sure you use your pencil so you can always erase it off. So that's for the center front. What I'm now going to do now is to insert the same 2 1/2 inches I made use of here to report it down here. So 2 1/2 inches is here. Then coming to the depth, I will have to insert 2 1/2, but I will advise you to just add just a bar on your measuring tape to that. The next thing is to curve out your neckline. So that is it. So another thing I have to report before I move on is the chest width and then the bust span measurement. So first, the chest width for her is 12. For the back is 13, the front is 12. And half of that is 6 inches. 6 inches. 6 inches. Now we've inserted the chest width, which is 6 inches. The next thing is to determine the slope. Here, from the nape at the back, we came up by 3/4 inch, remember? Then we now came down by 1/2 inch, so that sum totals to 1 1/4. So for the front, it has to be 1/2 inch more than this 1 1/4. So 1 1/4 plus 1/2 inch will give me 1 3/4 inch. So what I will do now is to come down by 1 3/4 inch here. 1 3/4. Then make a small straight line. So what I will do now is to measure whatever I have now from the neck region to the end of the armhole here. Whatever I have here is the same thing I'm going to measure here. So for her, I have 4 1/2. This 4 1/2 now will be reported here from the edge of the neckline here. So you rotate it till it matches this line you marked out. 4 1/2. 4 1/2 is here. So that is the front shoulder slope. So the next thing now is to mark 2 inches. So that will be your notch for the front. So this is the notch for the back. So at that, so whatever you have for your bust measurement here, which is 8 1/4, I'm going to mark it here. 8 1/4. From this edge, connect to this point. So that's for the front armhole. So we are done with that. The next thing now for the dart is to insert a bust level measurement or bust point. So from the nape of the neck here, I'll measure 9 inches because hers is 9 inches. 9 inches is here. The next thing is to insert the bust span. For the back, it was 3 1/2. So the same thing goes here on the bust level or bust point line. 3 1/2. On the hip area, 3 1/2. And the last thing we are going to do now is to insert our front waist measurement. Remember, we've been using the back waist measurement since, which is 13 inches. So our front waist measurement is 14 inches. So from the beginning here, you are just going to measure 14 inches, which is here. So that means our front is just 1/4 inch more than our back. From this draft, from this pattern we have. For a plus size person like for me, the difference for mine is 1 inch. So it is your bust, it is how busty you are that determines the difference in your front and back waist. So for her now, it is just 1/4 inch because from the edge now, we have 14 inches here. So I'm going to mark that into a straight line. 14. So because she's a small size, there are even some people that their front waist measurement is just the same as the back. So hers is just a bit just 1/4 inch. Why for me, who is this plus size, is as much as 1 inch. So when I'm drafting for a plus size person, you understand what I'm talking about. So I'll draw this line till out 1/2 inch more than the bust pan line. The next thing now is to take in the dart on both sides, just at the back, because she's a small size. I'm going to take in 1/2 inch on both sides. But for me, I will do as much as 3/4. So now the dart now will be taken on this new waistline, not this very one. So what I will do now is to take 1/2 inch on this very line. 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. So now I can take my darts from the bust level or bust point, come down by 1 inch. And here just go up by 1 inch. Then you can connect. Look at how I'm going to connect the dart from this very one. So by the time she puts the top on, it's just going to stay exactly where the dart is supposed to be on the front waist line. So that is it. So since we took the same dart on the back, so whatever measurement I have here, including the dart, so that is 7 3/4. I'm going to measure 7 3/4 here. Our waist measurement is actually 6 3/4. So plus 1 inch for the dart, that makes it 7 3/4. Don't forget to go up by 1 inch. Then connect. So another thing we need to do now is to connect from this dart now, because this is now the new waist. This is the real waist for the front. So we need to connect it back to that of the back, so as to match up when sewing. So all I have to do now is from that point, mark it straight to the back waist measurements. On this side, that's so meaning at the side is going to fit, and for the front is going to sit on the right waist measurement. So this is it on how to make your basic bodice pattern. This is for a small size, and our next tutorial will be on how to make for a plus size, which will be me. I'll be using my measurements. So on this pattern, we still need to take some measurements when making the sleeve, but when we get there I will explain that. But still, I'm just going to cut it all out. What the basic bodice pattern looks like, you can see it is pretty easy to make. So ensure you make your own dartless bodice pattern. So wait till our next class on how to draft for a plus size person. Thank you.